Hey guys, what's up? It's Darkmak here and welcome back to another 2-minute tank guide for LFR, Normal and Heroic in the Eternal Palace. Today, we are on the last boss, Queen Azshara, and I'm not getting it done in 2 minutes. I'm not going to do a full raid guide for it, but I am going to try and make it comprehensive enough so you understand what the fuck is going on as the tank, but it is just all about what you have to do as the tank. So, Phase 1, someone's going to start the Titan console. 1 or 2 mini bosses are going to spawn. 1 tank on each mini boss. Bring them together to cleave them down. As soon as painful memories get cast, have 1 tank either on the warrior ad or the caster. It doesn't fucking matter. It's generally easier to move the warrior ad quickly. Move it around the pillar so it's line of sight. So you will have 1 ad on each side of the pillar. It doesn't matter if you go to the left pillar or the right pillar. Your raid will have decided that. Once Painful Memories has dropped off the buff on them, restack them together to cleave. The next cast that'll go off will be Longing. Keep them stacked for that. It's fine. Now, the tank with Athenal, the caster, will be getting a Cold Blast debuff. At 4 stacks of this debuff, you will become frozen. There's lots of guides out there saying to swap at 3 stacks to avoid getting frozen. However, on Normal and Heroic already, you can just wear the frozen hit, take a few hits, get broken out of the frozen, which happens on its own, and just keep tanking the same mini boss. So you can already do that in week 1. You're probably not going to have any struggles as you get more and more gear. The 2 mini bosses, they drop a thing called Cursed Heart Puddles. They're bad purple puddles. Just avoid standing in them and don't put them in places where you don't want them, like the ancient wards around the room. A Hulk's going to spawn throughout Phase 1. You can't tank it. Your raid are going to switch to it and nuke it down. Don't you worry about it. Intermission 1 will happen once the mini bosses are dead. There's going to be some arcane orbs to soak on the ground and an extra Hulk if your DPS is slow. There's going to be some decrees that come out from Queen Azshara as well. Now, in Normal, you get 1 decree each intermission. In Heroic, you get 2, and there's 2 new decrees that come with Heroic as well. So the decrees, you're going to get a Suffer, which means you have to soak an arcane orb. Obey, which is don't soak an arcane orb. Stand together, which is stand near another player, funnily enough. And stand alone, which means stand on your own. Now, the additional decrees in Heroic are Stay and March. Now, Stay means you get this little purple zone over you and you can't leave that zone. March means you have to keep moving, and when you are moving, you're leading this little explosive puddles under you. Don't go running through people and just make sure you keep moving to avoid getting damaged. Phase 2 is when Queen Azshara is going to come down after this intermission. Now, in the Heroic version of this encounter, Azshara gains Reversal of Fortune in this phase rather than Phase 3 in Normal. Reversal of Fortune is where Azshara will swap the locations of the Ancient Wards and the Ward of Power. Now, the Ward of Power is the blue one. The Ancient Wards are the yellow ones. And you can see on your little rune toggle beep majigger at the start of the fight that you'll have 3 yellow ones and the one in the middle will be inactive. Queen Azshara will activate this one when she comes down, and that is the blue one. The blue ones are always the wards of power. Yellow ones, always ancient wards. So just use your eyes, move Azshara away from the ward of power if it happens to switch with an ancient ward that you are standing by. You'll also need to move Azshara away from lower powered ancient wards to higher powered ones and let your group recharge them. Your group is going to be running into the ancient wards as Azshara drains them. If they hit 0, bad things happen. So just use your eyes. If you're next to an ancient ward and it's getting sort of sucked down, move to a different ancient ward that is at a higher power level. Now, in regards to positioning wise, now that you kind of understand how the runes work, the best positioning that's been working out so far is when Phase 2 happens, tank Azshara where she lands. This works in Normal and Heroic. She'll now activate the middle ward, which is the Ward of Power. What you're going to do is ads are going to spawn up the top where Azshara came down. You're going to cleave them down where Azshara is. You're then going to move Azshara to the front of the room where you started between the Titan console and the pillar. What's going to happen is Beckon's going to go out, which is something for range to worry about. After that goes off, they're going to move to the Ward of Power and they're going to soak it. A Crab Lady is going to spawn after that. Everyone's going to switch to that. Then the melee are going to soak the middle. You're just going to leave Azshara, tanking her in the same spot between that Titan console and that pillar. Now, during all of this, you'll be getting a debuff from Azshara, stacking debuff via her Arcane Jolts. These increase your arcane damage taken On Heroic, you want to swap around 7 to 9 stacks. On Normal, you get away with absolute fucking murder. You can swap anywhere from 10 to 20 stacks. It's very forgiving in Normal. At 100 energy, Azshara is going to cast a Arcane Detonation, which you need to line of sight. And because you're in the position between the Titan console and the pillar, your raid can either use the Titan console or it can use the pillar to line of sight. Just make sure you line of sight, then you run back out. Intermission 2 occurs at 70% health and it's the exact same as number 1, so just rinse repeat it. Phase 3 in Normal, this is where you will first find the Reversal of Fortune, which is where she can swap the Ancient Runes and the Ward of Power around. So this is where you'll find it in Normal, but you've already had it in Phase 2 in Heroic. It just continues along this way in Phase 3, but if you're doing Normal, this is where you will first see the Reversal of Fortune feature, where she's swapping the wards around and you're using your eyeballs. Now in Heroic, in Phase 3, you will get Greater Reversal of Fortune. So this is where she can turn all the ancient wards into wards of power, or vice versa. It means that you can go from having 3 yellow ones to having 3 blue ones. Again, you just need to make sure that you drag Azshara away from a remaining ancient ward, so she's not getting to an ancient ward, so she's not next to a ward of power, and draining that. The more power she drains from an ward of power, the harder she hits, the harder the adds hit and things like that. We obviously want to avoid that. Everything else is maintained in regards to your position. At 100 energy, make sure that she's in a spot where your raid can line of sight around pillars or the Titan console. Soon after Phase 3 kicks off, guys, 2 Tide Mistress adds are going to spawn. They can't move. They're located in 2 of the 3 ancient ward zones, and it's always random. Your raid needs to find them quickly and get onto them. You're gonna focus Serena first, so you're gonna bring the boss over to Serena. The reason being is she takes longer to put a shield up, and your raid should be able to kill her before a shield actually gets popped up. Next, your raid's going to go over to Lady Venom or something like that. It's one of the other Tide Mistresses, and she's going to get a shield up. Now, what you need to do is you're going to be a Myrmidon in this phase as well, throwing the charged spear that your raid was dealing with in Phase 1. You don't really have to worry about that. However, what you have to worry about in this phase is your positioning. So with the positioning, make sure that you've got your Tide Mistress. Make sure that the Myrmidon is next to the Tide Mistress. It doesn't really matter where Azshara is, if she's in the middle, if she's on the outside, it doesn't matter. What matters is that when someone gets a charged spear, that they can run to the other side of the Tide Mistress without hitting anything, no pillars, no consoles. That spear can travel from the Myrmidon through the Tide Mistress and break the shield. So make sure you just park the Myrmidon next to the Tide Mistress. Phase 4 is your hero and burn phase. It's once the Tide Mistress adds are dead. She's still going to be doing Reversal of Fortune in this and draining the wards, so you still need to pay attention in regards to where you are tanking her. You'll now be dealing with a debuff called Void Touch though. So we're going to get this debuff, which is going to reduce our healing done by 10%, or reduces healing incoming by 10%, and it stacks. You want to taunt swap it around 3 to 4 stacks of this. Azshara is also going to be opening up nether portals. They're bad things, don't stand in them. A big orange beam called Piercing Gaze is going to be going across the platform as well. Don't stand in that. And your raid will also be dealing with overload, but that's your raid's problem and not yours as the tank. So that is pretty much it, guys. The biggest thing for you to worry about is just your positioning. As I said, when she comes down, tank her where she is. Once the first set of adds are dead, move her down to the back between the pillars and the Titan console. From there, throughout the fight, you're just going to be moving her around to the ward. So if she's draining a ward and that ward is low, move her over to a ward that is higher. Your raid will recharge that ward while she's draining the other one. Move her back to another one. She'll only drain the ward that she's closest to. And if you get a ward of power, the blue one, move her away from the ward of power and your raid will drain that one as well. So that is pretty much it, guys. It's not as bad as it sounds, but there's a lot going on. So if you have any questions, hit me up in the comments below and I will do my very best to help you out. Otherwise, thank you very much for checking out the video. Thanks for sticking through the series of this one. Like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you all next time. See you, fam.